Welcome back to the Endo and Fertility Space channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's been gaining attention, creatine supplementation and its effects on endometriosis. While creatine is widely recognized for enhancing athletic performance and focus, recent research suggests it might influence the progression of endometriosis. There are a few key studies that have caught the attention of many people in the endometriosis space, so let's talk about them. If you haven't already, please give this video a like, share it with a friend, and hit that subscribe button. Before we jump into understanding creatine's role in endometriosis, let's first establish its role in the human body. Creatine is a natural molecule that is produced in the body from the amino acids arginine, glycine, and methionine. Creatine is primarily made in the liver and to a lesser extent in the kidneys and pancreas. It's involved in storing high energy phosphate groups in the form of phosphocreatine. These phosphate groups are donated to ADP to regenerate ATP, your body's primary energy carrier. Creatine's role in energy production is particularly relevant under conditions of high energy demand, such as intense physical activity, inflammation, or mental activity. You can find creatine in animal-based foods like meat and fish, but it is also available in a supplemental form. The strongest research we have available on creatine is on muscle creatine content, muscle mass improvements, power output, metabolic rate, fatigue resistance, blood flow, aldosterone increase, strength, fatigue improvements, oxygen uptake, memory, sleep quality, and of course, blood creatine levels. Now, none of these studies are specific to endometriosis. So now let's move to a discussion on what research we have on endometriosis and creatine. Recent studies have investigated the relationship between creatine and endometriosis. One study found that creatine supplementation reduced cellular iron concentrations, mitigating oxidative stress and damage from fat peroxidation, which in other words is damage to fat cells. So let me explain this in a way that might be a little bit easier to digest. In healthy cells, a high iron environment can trigger a type of cell death called ferroptosis. This is one type of cell death that could prevent endo from developing or progressing. In endometriosis, the cells are abnormal and resistant to this type of cell death. What researchers found is that creatine supplementation lowered oxidative stress and protected the cells from damage by lowering the amount of iron in cells and removing the need for ferroptosis. Another study showed that creatine was found in higher amounts in cells of the immune system called macrophages that also happen to play a role in endo development and progression. Macrophages can behave in one of two ways. One is to fight infection and drive inflammation. The second is to help with tissue repair, blood vessel growth, and scar formation. This lab experiment found that creatine pushed macrophages towards the M2 type, which encouraged new blood vessel growth, more scar tissue formation, made cells stick and spread, and made it easier for endolesions to grow and persist. While the second study mentioned might instill a little fear in my fellow endo warriors, here are a few things to keep in mind. The first thing is that this study was not a direct human study. The lab experiment used human-derived cells, but the findings are still preclinical, meaning they show what could happen in the body, not what does happen when a woman with endometriosis takes creatine as a supplement. The second thing to consider is this was not a supplementation trial. The researchers didn't give women creatine and watched for symptom changes. They just observed what happens in cell systems. The third consideration is that dose and context matter. The creatine buildup in the peritoneal fluid, so the fluid surrounding the abdominal organs, reflects a byproduct of disease metabolism, not necessarily that taking creatine causes it. The fourth consideration is the immune system and human physiology are much more complex than a petri dish. Many other cells, hormones, and feedback loops can modify the effects observed in this experiment. All this being said, in theory, adding creatine might enhance endo growth, but human data does not yet exist to confirm this. If you feel more comfortable approaching with caution, then just don't supplement with creatine. But if you are using it for some other science-backed benefits and find it helpful, then it might not also be a bad thing to continue supplementation. The bottom line is we just don't know. Okay, so now let's briefly talk about how to use creatine. If you're considering creatine supplementation, here's what you need to know. Creatine monohydrate is the best, most researched form on the market. In most studies, supplementation involved an initial loading protocol of around 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, typically divided into 4 equal doses throughout the day for 5 to 7 days, followed by a daily maintenance dose of at least 0.03 grams per kilo of body weight. The alternative to creatine loading, and the way I suggest taking creatine if it's something that you would like to try, involves simply taking a smaller dose, usually 3 to 5 grams of creatine every day. Creatine is generally considered safe and well tolerated by most people who take it, but it can cause some gastrointestinal discomfort. Caution is advised on creatine supplementation in pregnancy. Now let's briefly talk about who should avoid creatine. While creatine is generally safe for healthy individuals, certain people should exercise caution. The first group of people to exercise caution are individuals with kidney disease. Creatine is metabolized by the kidneys, and supplementation can increase creatine levels, which may be harmful in those with impaired kidney function. The second group of people who should approach with caution are pregnant or breastfeeding women. There is limited research on the safety of creatine during pregnancy and lactation. And the last group of people to approach with caution is anyone with endometriosis who simply does not feel comfortable supplementing creatine. So in conclusion, while creatine has benefits for athletic performance and certain health conditions, its role in endometriosis is complex and poorly understood. Some studies suggest it may exacerbate the condition by promoting inflammatory pathways and resistance to cell death. Therefore, if you have endometriosis, you need to make an informed decision for yourself on whether creatine is serving you. Remember, what works for one person may not work for another. Always prioritize personalized medical advice and consider all factors before making decisions about supplementation. Thanks so much for tuning into today's video. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more content on endometriosis, and I will see you in the next video.